Hey, my name's Brad Hendrickson. Midwest Music Fest. I was helping a band out of Minneapolis named Communist Daughter. They had a show at the State Theater, and we were helping with their merch. And the table right next to us had Midwest Music Fest has a little table set up to kind of increase their visibility, and had pamphlets and the Minnesota Music Coalition also was right next to them. And so we were just hanging out and chatting it up, and what do you do? Oh, what do you do? We had this festival, and I work on guitars, and they said, boy, I think it'd be pretty cool to have you down and help bring everybody's instruments up to play their very best, ahead of a big sort of visible showcase. And so I came down last year and was set up in the hub and worked on everybody's instruments. Excuse me. Worked on everybody's instruments there, and about a week after we got done last year, organizers messaged me and just said, "Hey, it was great. We put it on the calendar already. We're having you down next time for sure." So lo and behold, here we are again, all set up and tooled up and clipping and dialing and tweaking and oiling and sanding and I don't know, whatever else we're doing here. Oh boy, yeah, I'm basically, other than a couple of times to kind of sneak out and try to catch somebody whose music I hope to see. I'm basically here on site the whole time, all day, from open to close. So it's just there's a bunch of people kind of trickling through, and they bring their guitars and just do whatever needs to get done. At least as much as I can here. I don't have the full kind of surgery shop. But as you can see, there's a fair bit of stuff and materials and options and whatever to get most of everything that we need to get done here on site. And I think it's made a real enjoyable difference, I guess, for people to kind of the before and after is a nice contrast to be able to hand them back their instrument better than it's ever played. I have a real simple website. It's just hendricksonguitars.com, and there's a testimonials tab on the site you can look at, and really it's just a collection of people who've been willing to go to bat for me to get the word out. I mean, it's just me, it's just word of mouth. It's one guy, home shop, real low kind of operating costs, and I don't have any kind of advertising budget, right, or small business loan or anything. But there's a hearty list of people who have made all the difference in the world for me to help spread the word and increase visibility in a way that really I can look to their credibility musically, right, to go into bat for me and say that they have fine things to say about me, rather than me trying to sell myself to anybody. I can just say, well, here's a list of folks and see what you think, and stop by. And I'm happy to take the Pepsi challenge. If anybody else is working in town, I'm sure they're fine at it. I obviously think that my recipe and everything is pretty darn good. I can certainly track with anybody else. Boy. Back in '99 or so, I worked at 2000. I worked at a Guitar Center in Edina, and on Saturdays for a couple of hours, excuse me, Saturdays for a couple of hours, a guy named Dave Roussan would come in and do free adjustments for customers in the store. And if they needed work for something beyond just a simple little adjustment, he'd then take their instruments home and do their work and so forth. But anyway, I was working there as a teenager. Just moved here from North Dakota, and there's a couple of Saturdays where though he came, it was a blizzard outside. It was just waist deep. Nobody was in the store. So there we all were, because it was our shift and we had to. I started picking his brain. Just, hey, what am I looking for? How do I know if a guitar's adjusted right or not, or what's kind of the first step here and there? And he taught me kind of little by little, and I at some point kind of asked if I could come over to his place and maybe help out and stuff. He's also just a one-man guy, and his biggest thing is that he built the original cloud guitars for Prince for the movie Purple Rain, the one that's in the window that he buys and all that, that the gal buys for him and everything. So he was the original builder for those, and he went over to England for some years and did work for some real big names, the Who and the Stones, and even now Brian Setzer, the big rockabilly guy. He lives up in the cities and brings all of his vintage gear over to. Yep. So I've gotten to hang out, on the periphery and and play with some of the really neat instruments that have come through his shop, and just learn, soak up a bunch of stuff, you know, from him. And then I also did, there's a full year-long program at Red Wing Tech College for building and repairing guitars. So I bought all the tools for that, and lived in Red Wing and went to that class. You know, I think it's 8 to 4, 8 to 5, went full time. You know, 2 semesters of that, nothing but that, and picked up some good and helpful skills there too. And the combination of that and a couple of shops I worked at a fancy pants guitar shop in New York City for a while called Rudy's. On 48th Street in Midtown, and a couple of their repair guys gave me a couple little pointers while I was there too, some years ago. So kind of the combination of all of that stuff and just kind of trial and error and communicating with customers back and forth and kind of what they enjoy, what they would like a little bit higher, a little bit lower, you know, watching people play and seeing if they're hitting it hard or if they're kind of a lighter, more kind of Byzantine kind of player. It's different things are helpful for them than like a Johnny Cash or a Leo Kottke who are kind of really laying into the thing. And like anything, you know, you put a bunch of hours in it and you make mistakes and you learn and you ask questions and you you know, kind of walk it back and come back to it and back and forth, and eventually you get, at least I feel pretty good about where I'm at. I play guitar, started on piano as a little kid, and violin, saxophone. I'm actually in the National Guard, and I play sax in the band unit at a Rosemount, and then also guitar in the rock band. So, yeah, I mean, he was a one-of-a-kind guy, right? I mean, just real, there's a real brilliance to it. Boy. I mean, what he could do and track mentally of a part here and a texture over here and an amp and a sound and an adjustment. He would, if you look at some of the personnel listings of some of his albums, you know, he's the only guy, and he's playing drums and piano. And I know Dave actually was interviewed by local news, and he told a story about how when he first came into Newt Capet, that he came in and he started playing a guitar part like just with one hand here, and reached over on a keyboard and played a second harmony part along with this thing as just like a teenage, you know, he's 17 years old, 18, 19, something like that. So, I mean, he had, you know, just a real one-of-a-kind sort of singularity in his focus, so almost obsession in a largely healthy way, certainly in a beautiful way. And it was cool, you know, just to see, to enjoy, to grow up as a kid hearing about this, and then of all the things to connect with, to actually meet the guy, and then to have, you know, some of his actual this cymbal one and the one he played for you know, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that big soul he played. Yep. I mean, we were working on that 48 hours before he played that show. It was, you know, it touched my hands, you know, for just a simple, you know, adjustment or whatever. But it was certainly really neat to just kind of have that sort of brush in passing, to be a part of that.